Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through some of the problems on the 8E assignment. First one we're going to take a look at here is number 1. Rodrigo wishes to determine the height of a flagpole. He takes a sighting to the top of the flagpole from point P, which is right here. He then moves 20 meters further away from the flagpole to point Q, takes a second sighting. The information is shown in the diagram alongside how high is the flagpole. So this is what we're trying to figure out, right? Okay, so let's see what we can figure out. If we can figure out, say, what this side is right here, we could use good old basic trig ratios to figure this out, right? Or if we can figure out what this side is here, we could use this 28, except for that's 20. You know what? Yeah, we just need to figure out some distances here. So let's do this. We know that this here is 20. This is 28. If this is 53, we can actually figure out what this angle P right here is, right? Because that's going to be 180 minus 53, right? Which is going to give us 127. So this is 127 degrees. So that means up here, that's going to be 127 and 28 is 155. Are those two together? So if we do 180 minus 155, that's going to give us 25 degrees. So this up here is 25 degrees. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to just figure out what this side is here because we can choose which one we want. So I know that this angle and that side, we can use law of sine. So sine 25 over 20. 20 equals, let's see, I want to know this side here, so I'm going to do sine 28 over, I'm going to call this y. Sine 28 over y. So we do cross products. 20 sine 28 equals y sine 25, right? So 20 sine 28 is 9.39, we'll call it. And then sine of 25 is 0.423. 0.423y. So divide both sides by 0.423. Right? And that'll tell us what that y side is, and then we can figure out what x is. Okay? So 9.38943 divided by our answer, which is our 0.422, gives us 22.2. So this right here, let's do this in a different color so that we've got this. So this right here is 22.2. So now, look, we can do opposite and hypotenuse. That's going to be sine 53 equals x over 22.2. So multiply both sides by 22.2. And that'll tell us what x is. So 22.2, which we already have unrounded in there, sine 53 will tell us what x is. Let's do this. Enter again, and that'll give us this. There we go. Times sine, there we go, 53. Now we're in business, 17.74. So it is 17.74 meters tall. Okay? All right, taking a look at number 5. Helicopter A observes two ships B and C. B is 23.8 kilometers from the helicopter, and C is 31.9 kilometers from it. I'm assuming meaning the helicopter. The angle of view BAC. So let's do this. Here's our... let's change it back to, change it back to blue. Here's our helicopter, H. Too lazy to draw a pretty picture, sorry. Observes two ships, B and C. So let's call this B, and let's call this C. B is 23.8 kilometers from the helicopter, 23.8. C is 31.9 kilometers. The angle of view, B to A to C, so the helicopter they're going to now call A. From the helicopter to B and C is 83.6. How far are the ships apart? So that is going to be this length here, right? So we've got, remember, if we have an angle and the two included sides, we're going to want to use cosines, right? And so since we're looking for a side, we want to use this one right here. So we will do A squared equals B, which we'll call 23.8 squared, plus C, which is 31.9. Actually, I should switch those around because look, we do actually have a B and a C, so let's do this right. So B is 31.9, and then C is 23.8 minus 2 times 31.9 times 23.8 times the cosine of that included angle, which is 83.6. Okay, I know that's a lot of stuff to put in there, but that's all right. We can do it. So we've got 31.9 squared times 23.8 squared minus 2 times 31.9 times 23.8, and then we got cosine 83.6. Whew, that's a lot. Wow, that's a big number. 576,245 is about what A squared equals. So we will simply want to square root both sides to figure out what A is. So we square root our answer, and we get about 759 kilometers. That's not right. What did I do wrong here? Let's get this figured out. I already figured out what I did wrong. I multiplied those two together. Multiplied those two. There should be a plus right here, right there. That makes a big difference. So I can go and highlight that, and then do second entry. Oh no, is it not giving it to me? Because I really want to do this second. Oh, it's not working. Okay, I'm just going to have to do the whole thing over again. Okay, here it is, entered in hopefully correctly. 1414.7. That sounds a little bit more reasonable. So let's just erase this and get this done correctly. So it's about 1414, and so then when we take the square root of that number, that should give us something a little bit more reasonable. 37.6. That sounds like that could actually work. 37.6, and this is going to be kilometers for number 5. Okay. Taking a look at number 9. From the foot of a building, you have to look 22 degrees upwards to sight the top of a tree. From the top of a building, 150 meters above ground level, I have to look down at an angle of 50 to the horizontal to sight the treetop. How high is the tree? So what we want to do is we want to figure out, we want to figure out what this is right here, right? We got to figure out what that height is. So we know that's a right angle. This is 22. We want to figure out what, say, this length of this side is, which we should hopefully be able to figure out. This is a 90-degree angle. This is a 90-degree angle. So if we do 90 minus 50, that leaves us with 40 degrees for that angle. If we do 90 minus 22, that gives us 68 degrees for that angle. And then we can add 68 and 40 to give us 108. And we take that away from 180. And that gives us that this angle right here is 72 degrees. So now we're in a little bit more business here, because again, if we can figure out what this side is or that side, then we can figure out what this side is. But with this triangle here having one side and all the angles, we can actually figure out what that side is right there. So let's call this Y. So I know that 40 and Y will go together, as well as 72 degrees and 150. So we can do law of sines. So sine 72 over 150 is going to equal sine of 40 over Y. Cross products, right? Y sine 72 is going to equal 150 sine 40. Okay, so we can do sine of 72 is 0.951. 0.951 Y is going to equal, and then we can do 150 sine of 40, and that gives us 96.4. Divide both sides by 0.951, right? And that will tell us what Y equals. And then once we know Y, then we can figure out what X is. So we already got the 96.4 in there. Divide that by 0.951, and we get 101.4, we're going to call it. And this is meters. Now this is just this length right here, 101.4 meters. So now that we know that, now we can do, look, opposite and hypotenuse. We can do sine 22 equals X over 101.4. Multiply both sides by 101.4. And we're in business. So we call this 101.4, which we already have in there. So we just do times. It'll do answer times sine of 22. Another 2. There we go. And we get 37.97, so we'll call that 38. Is about 38.0 meters tall for the tree. 38 meters. Now part B says how far from the building is this tree? So now we got to figure out what this is. Okay. So good news. We already know this is 101.4, and that's 22. So now if we're going to do this one, let's see. We haven't done blue yet. Let's do that. So to find this distance here, that's adjacent and hypotenuse. So we can do sine 22 equals adjacent over 101.4. Multiply both sides by 101.4. And the distance is going to be simply 101.4 times, not sine, but cosine, right? Cosine 22, right? Because it's adjacent and hypotenuse. So that's important. So 101.4 cosine of 22 is going to give us 94. 94 for our the distance from the tree to the building. So 94.0 meters. 94 meters. All right. All right. A couple more to take a look at. All right, 13. Stan and Olga are considering buying a sheep farm. A surveyor has supplied them with a given accurate sketch. Find the area of the property, giving your answer in kilometers squared and hectares. Okay, we have to go back and figure out what hectares are. Okay, but first let's figure out kilometers squared. So we want to find the total area of these things here. So we can find the area of this one here pretty easily, right? Oops. This one right here. Area is going to be 1/2 of the 2 included sides, 8 and 12, times sine of 70. That will give us the area of this right here, right? So let's just do that really quick. 0.5 times 8 times 12 sine 70. 45.1. So this here is 45.1 kilometers squared. Now we got to figure out what this is right here. Problem is we have one side, one angle, but we don't have this other side. So first thing we got to do is we got to figure out what that other side is right here. Let's call this little r, right? Because it's across from angle r. So little r is going to equal, that's going to be this one here. So we got to do the two. Let's see, we're looking for the side, and we have one of the angles, but we need the other side here. Actually, let's call this little p, because then we can use this triangle over here where we have all the information that we need. And little p is going to be the same thing as this little r right here. Okay, so little p is going to equal, let's see, that's going to be these two included sides. So that's going to be 8 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 8 times 12 cosine of 70. And that's going to be p squared, right? So we do 8 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 8 times 12 cosine 70. You should be able to just enter that whole thing in all at once, and we get 142. P squared is 142. So we square root both of those, and we get second square root, second answer, and we get 11.9. So this right here is 11.9. So now that we know that this is 11.9, now we can find the area of this triangle right here by doing 1/2 of 11.9 times 10 times sine 30. Okay. So 0.5 times 11.9 times 10 sine of 30. That gives us 29.75 for this one right here. 29.75 kilometers squared. Right, so let's maybe call that 29.8. Since we rounded the other one to the nearest tenth, that should be fine. So then we can do the total kilometers squared is 29.8 plus 45.1. 74.9 square kilometers. And to turn something into hectares, we will simply move the decimal over 2 spots. So you take this decimal here and go there, and so we get 7490 hectares. Okay, and this is 74.9 kilometers squared. Okay. Okay, so that's all we have for the 8E assignment. If you have any further questions, please feel free